l'amour berce mon âme, berce toujours, exquis et tendre, à mon cœur il chante, et nous les beaux serments de nos amants.
Con ansia me diste la miel de tu encanto y así nos amamos con honda pasión. Pasaron los meses, los mismos que un sueño, dichoso a tu lado con tanta emoción. Y así a tus amores atado he vivido hasta que el cansancio mi vida golpeó. Y yo, por no hacerte, sufrí de callado 10 meses muy largos fingiéndote amor. Hoy a vos, hoy lo mismo y a mí te sucede. También el hastío tu vida llenó. No quieres decirlo por miedo a que sufra y calla fingiendo lo mismo que yo. Por eso
Hey there.
What are we doing here? Are we doing both? Are we doing one? If it works, it works. It does work. How are we doing, Wendy? Okay. No, I know. I'm doing patter. I'm just saying hello. Yeah. Wonderful. Just so everyone knows, we're not starting immediately at 7. Shh, don't tell anybody. We're going to have ourselves a really fun time tonight, aren't we going to? Yes, we are. Hello, everybody. Just because I'm right here, just so I know, how many of you have never been here before? Wow. Well, I'll tell you more about the place during the introduction, but yeah, makes an impression, doesn't it? Everything about it says, we save websites. And my name's Jason. I actually work in collections and collecting things and wearing outfits that are inappropriate for a tax refund. It's going to be a wonderful night as usual. We got a whole bunch of things planned. Things are going to be good. When you hear that music outside, that's not the pumped-in sound of a record. That is actually a band outside. Our neighbors love us. Hey, how many people here are neighbors to us? How many people here are within a block of us? Okay. I assume you all came and got the free tacos and left. I'm assuming that's what the neighbors did. How we feeling, boss? Okay. What you're watching up here is stuff from Lost Landscapes, Rick Pellinger's film that has been rescued from home movies of the last 50 or 60 years. These are all, different non-governmental, non-planned views of the world. This is when you don't have a set or a script and you just capture what life is really like. So we really are into home movies here. I'm assuming you visited the really cool science fiction-y film reader downstairs that we use to digitize. And we're going to people not because they did Hollywood work, not because they are part of a government program or part of a business, but because once upon a time, their grandfather swung a camera at the Lynn Wall. So this is how you find out about the things that are gone, that we would otherwise not know about, that we wouldn't see. A fascinating group. Come on in, have a seat, make a friend, leave no gaps. We're going to fill this thing to the brim. Come on down. I'll say it again during the speech, but the number one thing people do when they come in is go, what is up with the creepy little statues? That is the number one thing. If you work at the archive, for 3 years, we make a little statue of you. I'm not even going to explain why. Live with that mystery. No, I don't. Who's the band? You gotta come closer. Zambalata? That's great. Oh, I love the feedback of death if I walk anywhere near people. I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. You're so well trained, you assumed that if I went back there I was going to start crying and you didn't want to get over the speakers. That's professional. I appreciate that. That comes later. Tears come later. Today's a day of joy. Has everyone remembered to register to vote? Can I get a little clapping for voting? I think, yeah. I'm a fan of voting. Vote early, vote often. I'm from the Northeast. And yeah, I think voting's really going to be in this year, don't you? I think this is the year it's going to take off. It's going to be the Macarena of civics. Will you like calm down, Jason? Calm down? Okay. Oh, I love talking and having people come up. There's plenty more where that came from. Bring the band! This band is the lovely Fanfare Zambalada. We doing another one, or are we saying goodbye? You want another one? Bring it on! Once again, that was Fanfare Zambalada, featuring an internet, Zambaletta. People talked to me and they said Zambalada. I know. Who doesn't dance? Oh, dance like everybody's watching and you have a really popular Twitch account. Along with one of our fine Internet Archive employees as well. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks, Noah. Oh, I guess we're starting. Are we starting? Is it starting? So just one note, we have a few people who are standing up. You'll die. We have to find space for them. So if anybody is a little bit unsure about the person next to them, hey, they like the Internet Archive. Get a little close to them and give these people a little room to sit down. So just doing it. I know. It's a little tough. Do it, and don't be afraid to come up. There is no splash zone at an Internet Archive bash. We would have handed out ponchos. Did everyone enjoy outside? It didn't rain. Oh my God. We were sure that was it. It was going to rain, and it didn't. So, I have no idea what you just said, but I still love you. All right, so my name. All right, how many people here already know who I am? All right, good. That's a bunch of people who are about to get a little freaked out tonight. My name is Jason Scott. I work for the Internet Archive, the finest job I've ever had. I joined in 2011 as a free-range archivist, and I'm still a free-range archivist, and you are inside what we call the Great Room. And it is truly a great room. And you're like, wow, why did a website dedicated to saving old websites buy this building? Because it looked like the logo. You know, it's not a joke. So if you look behind you, those are part of the Wayback Machine and part of the Internet Archive. Those are live servers. That's not a Raspberry Pi and some LEDs. Each one of those is about 2 petabytes. 2,000 terabytes of disk space. And every time you see a blink, somebody somewhere just got nostalgic. And so we have them running in multiple locations. We have a lot of space, and we'll talk about that. And this is our annual bash, where we celebrate all sorts of things. Yes. And so I'm just one of a whole host of really amazing, talented people here and elsewhere who have been part of the archive. And we're going to tell you what we're up to, what we've been working at, and where we think things are going. I think you'll have a really great time. If there was anything else I needed to tell you, I don't know it. But I do know that, let's get this show on the road, shall we? All right. So we're going to start off with the Grand Poobah, my boss, the librarian, the Hall of Famer, Brewster Kahle. Oh, but why give you any warning? Could Sandra Fuhrer come up? Sandra Fuhrer is
our supervisor for this area.
Our supervisor for this area. Go down.
Well, welcome to the Internet Archive.
Thank you very much. I am thrilled to be here. Hello, everyone. I am Sandra Fuhrer, and I am the supervisor of the Richmond District. And this is a wonderful event to come to after a long, long day of meetings and negotiations. And this is an absolute delight. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm so happy that the Internet Archive is in my district, quite frankly. I have a certificate of honor from the entire Board of Supervisors of San Francisco, and it is to the Internet Archive in recognition of your trailblazing efforts in providing universal access to knowledge, for building and expanding your online library, for building a more trustworthy and openly accessible web, and for fueling innovation and understanding for generations to come. The Board of Supervisors extends its highest commendation and appreciation. And I'm so glad to be part of the celebration. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The city has really helped support the Internet Archive in many ways, and one of the ways is we actually have our servers here, as Jason went and mentioned. All those lights blinking are people downloading. There's 80 gigabits per second of capacity between here and the major switch point in San Francisco because the city of San Francisco gave us dark fiber to connect this place to the Internet. So thank you very much to the city, and thank you, Supervisor Sandra. So, welcome to the Internet Archive. So glad you could come tonight. This is a party with a purpose. So, this isn't just sort of, hey, let's just have a good time. Actually, there's going to be some, let's get together and let's get something done. This is going to be a doer-style party to go and try to figure out how to build a better web. 2 years ago, I woke up, a lot of us woke up, and things had gone seriously sideways. We went through an election cycle, and irrespective of who you think should have become president, things went really, really wrong in terms of just how the whole process worked, whether it was how voter suppression was done, gerrymandering, the flood of television ads that went in a post-Citizens United world. But the thing that really hit me hard was just how the web betrayed us. We have a generation now that turns to their screens to answer questions. That is where we establish what truth is, who's saying what's the sport. It's sort of where a lot of our information comes from the web. Yet we were packaged, manipulated. We now know that it was orchestrated by governments, by a lot of funded entities, corporations. We had tools that were just not up for the task of being able to withstand some of the structures that were going on to go and influence the electorate. It wasn't a happy day. But there were a lot of people that just went, oops, oh well, tech kind of sucks, snark, snark, snark. I don't think it's actually time for cynicism or the like. We got together with a bunch of the other exec directors from the nonprofits and reached out to our for-profit friends, and we tried to figure out, what do we do now? What do we do now? What should we do as a civic enterprise to go and help basically citizens, not only in the United States, but all around the world, to make this thing better? And we came up with an agenda. And I think it's a really important thing that we double down and we hired up. You guys contributed actually a lot more money than you ever have before. We doubled down to fix the fricking web. We said, what's the problem? How can we actually build a better web? Well, it starts with a vision of what you want to have happen, and try to get yourself to go and do your pieces, and then reach out to others to see if they'll do their pieces. What you're going to see tonight is some of those pieces being built by the Internet Archive, some by our partners, and really where we would like to see it go if we're going to be successful. But it starts with a vision. And the vision we sort of tried to boil it down as to sort of what's the laundry list of the features that we want out of a better web. We want a web that sets the record straight. So you can't just go and make things up and say that that didn't happen. We need a web that helps set the record straight. We need a web that's reliable. So there are past versions. So you can't just go and erase things and pretend it didn't happen. We need a reliable web. We need a web that allows us to go deeper, that we can go and understand and click off and find out information around it. And not only from the website itself, but information outside of the web page, the news story, or the book that you're reading, or the movie that you're watching. What are other people saying, and how does it fit in? What are the other sources that help you understand whether what you're seeing is fake or not? It all looks good, but is it any good? Can we go deeper? We need a web archive that's built by many people, not just us or a couple of bots, but lots of people to go and pull together. Thank you. That will be built by many communities so that there's lots of depth and knowledge put into creating the the human record. We want to preserve the full human record. How do we go about doing that without engaging thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people? And what we want to preserve and help foster is a World Wide Web that's very inclusive, that includes many, many voices, not just those that are powerful. And especially, we want to hear from those voices that the powerful are trying to squash. Can we go and make an environment, an information environment that allows you to hear all of the different voices? I've only got a few more of these. Because I actually, a few years ago, I'm a real laptop kind of guy. It's like, I'll just sit here on my laptop. But I started to actually move around a lot more. Can we get a web that actually goes where I want to go, that answers questions when I want it? And can I have it on my phone? And can I have these talking devices? Can I have it in my car? Can we bring the web up and out? And can we make that web not be subject to a few platforms going and saying what you're allowed to hear and what you're not? Can we go and make this happen? There's also what got us all going at a lot of this stuff is that the web was fun and full of surprises, that there are these wacky things out there, that there's diverse people, that people are really particular and really peculiar. So if we go and regulate this thing way down too far, we'll have done something wrong. Can we go and keep the fun up? Can we make it all work? And we want a web that isn't creepy. A web that doesn't spy on us. My son Logan, he said, Dad, all these really cool apps, they're all a little creepy. And that's really hung with me, and it's been really true. All the really cool apps like suck off information into, I'm not sure where. Or there's personal information and it's sort of being spied on. It's kind of like I'm collaborating in something that I'm really not feeling in control of. But boy, is it cool. And a lot of the cool apps are going this way. But how do we go and make a web that doesn't have that compromise? That actually it's really cool, really interesting, and doesn't go and say, but where is all this going and who's now in control of my information? I want a web that has no central points of control, no gatekeeper. No. Want a web that allows me to make decisions of what information I'm going to see and the way I'm going to see it. This can actually work, and it used to work in some ways like this. And I'm not suggesting we go backwards, but go forwards into a world that we lock the web open for good. Can we make openness irrevocable? Can we make it so that it's baked into the code itself? This is the web that I think we deserve. And it's the web that we can build together. The key point of this is together. The Internet Archive is an institution that now can go and do some of these pieces. And we're going to show some of these pieces. But really, this is an outreach evening to you guys and the connections you have in Silicon Valley and beyond to see if we can go and build a web that we deserve. So welcome to this evening, and to kick things off, I would like to introduce and bring up the director of the Wayback Machine, Mark Graham.
And welcome everyone again to the great room here in our Temple for Knowledge. I've got the privilege and the honor of representing tonight the team of people who build and operate the Wayback Machine. How many of you here have used the Wayback Machine? It's kind of hard to see. All right. So pretty much everybody almost. Well, I'll skip all the introductions, but I am going to let you know that in the last year we've come up with a mission statement for the Wayback Machine. Here it is. Our mission is to help make the web more useful and reliable. Okay? Cool. So, as Brewster said, one of our core goals is to help set the record straight, right? So, Exhibit A. A few weeks ago, I get this phone call from a senior executive at Google. And she says to me, have you seen this tweet that Donald Trump has put out? It's actually it's a video pinned to his feed, which means it gets extra special attention to his 53 million followers. And the tweet, it's got the hashtag there, Stop the Bias. The tweet claims that Google hadn't promoted the State of the Union address this year for Donald Trump as it had in the past for Obama. And Google said, do you think maybe you can help us set the record straight? Because we're pretty sure that we promoted that State of the Union address. Well, we looked in the Wayback Machine, and sure enough, we had, in fact, we had archived many copies of the front page of Google on January 30th, 2018. And right there you can see there's a link demonstrating the fact that, in fact, Google had promoted the State of the Union address. So setting the record straight, it's what we do around here. And there's little that we could do if it wasn't for the partnerships that we've enjoyed over the last couple of decades, really. It's what allowed us to collect more than 340 billion web pages. That's like more than 2,000 URLs every single second. And a couple of the partnerships that I want to highlight right now are with two organizations. One is the Environmental Data Governance Initiative, or EDGI, and the other one is with the Sunlight Foundation's Web Integrity Project. So we're going to look here first at a page from the Sunlight Foundation. This is a capture from a website of the Office of Refugee Settlement a few months before the action that separated children from their parents at the borders, where that organization that works for us took down the contact list. Okay, so they planned this activity way in advance, and they planned how they were going to make it more difficult for us citizens to be able to contact our government to regress the wrongs and try to find justice. So that was recorded in the Wayback Machine. We've also been working with an organization, as I noted, called EDGI, specifically on some software to help identify changes in the content associated with web pages, and then to be able to help you see those changes side by side. So what we're looking at here is a comparison between two pages from the Environmental Protection Agency website. You notice the key difference is that the word climate doesn't appear on the page on the right. It appears climate's not on the list of acceptable words at the EPA these days. So once again, these are another examples of how we've been working to help set the record straight. Brewster also referenced that we want a web that's reliable. I can't think of a better example to help illustrate what we've been doing in that area than the work we've been doing with the Wikimedia Foundation and the Wikipedia communities. So, great organization, great movement. You know, there's more than 288 Wikipedia sites, and for the last 5 years, we've been archiving every change made to an external linked reference on those sites. Somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 million links a week we've been archiving. And because of that foundation of archives that we have, we were able to take a robot and run it through 22 of these Wikipedia sites looking for broken links, looking for pages that look like this, the 404. You've all seen them, right? The page not found. And what do? You go, oh, gosh, darn, I don't know where that is anymore. But what we did was we then ran and looked in the Wayback Machine, and we found actual reference, the actual page that people had linked initially. And I'm thrilled tonight to announce that we have rescued more than 6 million broken links that now point to the Wayback Machine. Yep. And we're just getting started with this because I consider all of that the kind of remedial, after-the-fact fix-it work. We're getting proactive right now. We're working on ways to make everything that people write persistent forever. So we won't have to go back and fix things. And there's a little graph we're going to show you now here, and this represents traffic from the English Wikipedia site in 1 week, and the traffic on the bottom, that big graph, that bar is traffic to the Wayback Machine. More than 25,000 connections a day, 3 times as many of the next most popular site, which is Google Books. So, thank you. We want a web, as Brewster noted, that goes deeper, that helps you understand your world a little bit more, that can provide you an opportunity to get some context for what it is you're seeing out there. So if the demo gods smile kindly on me, we're going to do a couple of demos. So the first one here, maybe you've heard of this guy, Brett Kavanaugh. You know, he's up for the Supreme Court, and his good buddy wrote a book called Wasted. at a fairly important part of our national conversation, but you couldn't read it. Well, you can now. So we're going to use and how are we doing this? This is really illustrating a bigger point. We're going to pull down where it says read cited books, and there's books that are cited on this Wikipedia page that we can read right now, available from the Internet Archive. Because the Internet Archive, in addition to backing up web pages, has archived millions of books. All right. I also want to go back to the Wikipedia page, if I could, and note here, we also, now, the 1983 yearbook from the Georgetown Prep, that's available as well, as of a few hours ago. Yes. Had this been a bigger Wikipedia page, there might be academic papers that are cited, and we have links to them as well. You know, I've got a vision that next year we can come back here and we can have links to books from hundreds, no, thousands of Wikipedia pages that point to archives, to books here at the Internet Archive. In fact, I've got dozens of books about Easter Island, so I've donated all of them to the Internet Archive to help fill in all of the blanks in the reference books on the Easter Island page. I invite all of you to join us in this effort. One more demo here, and this one is building on the fact that the Internet Archive, maybe some of you don't know, we back up a lot of television news. We've been backing up 60 television news channels 24/7 for 9 years. We've got more than 2 million hours of television news, all indexed with closed caption, lower third chyron. So we're going to see if we can leverage that archive, that library of television news, based on a recent article about Facebook here. So we selected related TV clips. So some related TV clips show up there to the left. We're going to click on one of them, go into the Internet Archive, and watch a video from news relative to Facebook
sites that use Facebook logins in the recent cyber attack. At least 50 million.
And go back. We're going to say, you know, we thought the other day, we realized that the web has this massive annotation system. It's called Twitter. People tweet about web pages, but often we're not aware of it. So we decided to put a little button on a web page that you can click, and you can see the tweets on that page. We're going to cruise through that one a little bit here now. I'm going to close this one up here and just, you know, you're probably wondering what happened to that Google story that I started with. Well, let's just say it was a long night. I was fielding press inquiries well into the morning hours, helping to provide more background and context. As a result of it, dozens of articles came out that were demonstrating that, in fact, the claim that Donald Trump made to his 53 million followers on Twitter was false. In fact, I think my favorite headline was one from Gizmodo coming up here. Google calls BS on Trump's claim. So helping to set the record straight, it's what we do. You know, helping to set the record straight, one archive web page, tweet, YouTube video, or digital resource at a time. We invite you to share your ideas, your questions, your books, your time, even your money to help us advance on this work. Thank you. And now, you know, I'm thrilled now to introduce my friend, my colleague, Jefferson Bailey, the Director of Web Archiving here at the Internet Archive. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Let's hear it for web archiving. Yay! So I'm here tonight to talk about how the web archive that we want is one that is built by many communities. I want to start with a story. One story, one community. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. In 2016, Baton Rouge and the whole state of Louisiana experienced disastrous levels of rainfall that led to horrific flooding, total state disaster, many lives lost, billions of dollars in property damages. The institutions tasked with preserving the record of this event, a pivotal event in the history of their state, they realized, how do we tell this story? And they came to the conclusion, as many of us here in the room do, you can't tell the story of an event these days without collecting the records of that event that are published on the web. You need to get the websites, the online newspapers, the user-uploaded YouTube videos, the Flickr images, the blogs, and the record of tragedy, the record of our communities is online, and it needs to be collected. One of the institutions tasked with this mandate, the East Baton Rouge Parish Public Library, image over there on the right, they knew that they needed to collect this story and tell it to future generations, but they didn't know how. Where do you begin? You begin, hopefully, by emailing the Internet Archive, and these are the emails that we love to get, and we get them from institutions every day. And we worked with them to collect stories of their communities and all the resources about the tragic flooding that happened. But we don't just work with small communities, we work with big public libraries, we work with national libraries, and a whole panoply of organizations contributing to a globally curated web archive. Most users of the Wayback Machine, they think, hey, it's like a bunch of bots. They're just crawling all over the place, taking random snapshots indiscriminately, without logic, without purpose, and just hoovering up whatever they find on the web. But that is not true at all. The web collection is built by thousands of people, not thousands of bots. Some of these efforts are huge. We work with the Library of Congress to archive every federal government website. We work with the National Library of Australia to get every Australian website ever published. Plenty of kangaroo material in that collection. But it's also local, unique, user-curated stories. Some examples, we work with the Washington, D.C. Public Library. They have an amazing collection of neighborhood blogs, local zines, local comics. And we even work with tiny little institutions. The 8th graders at Whitefish Middle School in Whitefish, Montana, were interested in archiving the presence of railroads in Montana. So our collections range from the huge to the tiny, from K-12 students all the way up to professional librarians. It's an archive built by all of us. One of you in here probably clicked that Huffington Post article about twerking and said, "Save page now." Others, beer blogs. But there's also researchers documenting how news coverage talks about the migrant crisis for comparative analysis, researchers collecting data sets about the disappearing glaciers, all sorts of professional activities, as well as local stories. This is a map of the institutions that we've worked with since we started archiving the web in 1996. Each dot is one institution, and it's time-lapse, and you can see it just grow over time, and it's been an amazing growth. This year we hit a bunch of new milestones. We have over 700 institutional users across the globe now using some of our web archiving services like ArchiveIt. 700. We had significant growth in Europe, in Asia, in South America, a whole bunch of different voices now contributing to the global web archive. And we have over 10,000 special topic curated collections. But it's not just the web about stories and communities. It's also the web about knowledge, research, and discovery. So this year, we also doubled down on our effort to say, we don't want to collect just the global web. We also want to make sure we're collecting the entire record of knowledge creation and scholarship. So we decided we're going to ramp up the team. We're going to launch all the crawlers. We're going to involve a bunch of people from the open access community, and we're going to create a comprehensive archive of scholarly literature. So we're proud to announce the release of some of the beginnings of this work. We now have over 7 million scholarly articles preserved forever and openly accessible. And even better than that, we have an additional almost 1.5 million at-risk articles. These are small journals, mom and pop shops. They have no preservation plan. They have no money. They're publishing in WordPress. So there's a whole tranche of scholarly material and open knowledge that is at risk, and we are working to preserve it. And we're just getting started in this effort. We're going to make it full-text searchable. We're going to make it available through APIs. We're going to make open citations, and we're going to distribute these across discovery mechanisms. So we're super excited for this effort. Yes. Yay, open knowledge. So I gave you a bunch of numbers about our scholarly publications work, but again, it comes down to the people and the curators and the humans that are driving this effort forward. So next up, I want to introduce one of my favorite librarians, a total crusader for open access to open knowledge, Victoria Reich.
Yay. Thank you, Jefferson. David and I, Dr. David Rosenthal, who I think is over there, are absolutely delighted to be working with you and your team. For over 20 years, I've worked to preserve web journals published by small organizations. These journals are a labor of love. They publish poetry and literature, politics, rural health care, studies of local environmental issues. Most of these journals are not well funded. They go offline, and then too often, every single day, they disappear. This is where the Internet Archive comes in. I want to tell you a story of two titles, or two stories about two titles, Genders and Exquisite Corpse. Genders was first published in 1988. It was the first major humanities journal to focus on gender studies and sexuality. It was both controversial and influential. It was very controversial. It got hate mail. Starting in 1998, it went online only. In 2014, the then editor-in-chief, her name was Ann Kibbe, called me up and she said, "Vicki, I'm about to retire and I can't afford the web hosting bills." 15 years of Genders appeared to be lost. Now, knowing that this was an important title, I had made sure that the Internet Archive had crawled the title while it was still available. And now the Wayback Machine has the only complete copy of the original issues. Thank you. The current Genders website proudly points to the Internet Archive, to the Wayback Machine, for those copies, for that access. Now, while we're here, I also want to point out that in addition to the Wayback Machine having the content, as Mark was describing earlier, you can now see the context around that content. So this circle here is an indication of the crawl depth of the website. There's a cloud tag, and there's a history of when the site was crawled. Now, the second title I want to talk to you about is called Exquisite Corpse. Andrei Cordrescu edited Exquisite Corpse from 1983 through 2015. Cordrescu is a Romanian-American poet, a novelist, essayist, screenwriter, and many of you may have heard him on NPR, All Things Considered. He has a voice that once you hear, you cannot forget. Exquisite Corpse, as you maybe can tell from the graphics, was a notorious anti-literary journal. Rebellion, passion, and black humor were trademarks. Now, we know of several times when the future of Exquisite Corpse was in danger. Here is Cordrescu begging his readers to please send money. They needed $25,000. $25,000. And they asked for donations in $20 increments. Anything you can give would be a great help, he says. Now remember, Exquisite Corpse is in Louisiana, and there was Hurricane Katrina. And after Hurricane Katrina, Exquisite Corpse ceased publication. It resumed in 2008 with this from Cordrescu. "Welcome to the post-Katrina resurrection corpse, back from a dank hiatus of 1 year in a formaldehyde-poisoned FEMA trailer. We festered, we raged, we contemplated suicide, and in the end, voted for life because we are a corpse already and we hate to keep on dying, just like the ideals of the Republic." Cordrescu has declared the corpse isn't dead yet, and due to the Internet Archive, it's actually pretty unlikely to die. The Wayback Machine, again, like Genders, has the only complete copy of original back issues. Now, why is this important? Journals published by small organizations encapsulate underrepresented voices and experiences. In addition to gender research and poets, scientists publish in numerous small local journals. Here are 3 examples from Turkey, Nigeria, and Russia. I am proud to be working with the Internet Archive staff to ensure that the web's vast and deep trove of journal literature persists. This work helps to move forward Brewster's vision to build the web we want, a web that includes many voices, all of our voices, and preserves the human record. Thank you.
Good evening. The hat always makes an entrance for me. My name is Alexis Rossi, and I am the Director of Media and Access here at the Internet Archive. We are inundated with the voices of the winners, the people with power. They write the books, they control the media, they even decide what goes into our libraries to be preserved. But the promise of the web is that it contains many voices. In the 1980s, there was a war in Afghanistan. Essentially, this was a proxy war between the Soviets and the United States. The Soviets were backing up the Afghan government, and the United States was backing up the insurgents. The Afghan government imposed a media blackout, and foreign journalists who were serving there became targets to be captured or killed. The Afghan Media Resource Center was founded to get around this problem. They were founded to train Afghan journalists and photographers to cover this story from the inside. The AMRC is the reason why you see these photos here today, and not just the things that the Soviets would have approved to cover this conflict. We actually, I think, hopefully I didn't run into them before the show, but hopefully there are a few people from the AMRC here today. If there are, could you please stand up? I know they were going to come. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. We really wanted to take this opportunity to thank you so much for putting these amazing images out and working tirelessly for years to make sure that there was coverage of this. The AMRC is the reason why these people had a voice. And today, this is available on the Internet Archive. Yay. There are people all over the world who don't have a voice, who aren't supposed to be heard. There are whole communities and religions who are persecuted, executed, and oppressed. But just like there are oppressors in the world, there are also people who want those voices to be heard. The Buddhist Digital Resource Center was founded to preserve the words of Buddha. They have spent much of their time actually preserving the literature of Tibet, and this is the founder, E. Jean Smith, with a Tibetan Lama here. They're a neutral entity. So the BDRC has been able to archive things from both sides of the Himalayas, working in India, Thailand, Mongolia, but also in China, traveling to far-flung monasteries to find books to archive. The BDRC actually represents the largest group of Tibetan Buddhist writings all together in one place in the entire world. And as of today, it is also available on the Internet Archive. This collection adds yet another set of voices to the web. And to talk about that, I would like to bring out Jan Ronis and Sonam Tundan. Jan is the executive director of the BDRC, and Sonam is a Tibetan refugee with a personal interest in maintaining all of these great works. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis, and thank you to the Internet Archive. BDRC is thrilled that the world's largest collection of Tibetan literature is now available to the widest possible audience in the world. And furthermore, that our collection will attain persistence. As you know, Buddhists don't believe in permanence, but I think persistence is orthodox, so we'll just go with that. So, Buddhist Digital Resource Center, BDRC, we digitize and make accessible Tibetan and Buddhist literature from across Asia. And what we do is go to where the books are. And the books are pretty commonly, most often located in far-flung monasteries and in humble household libraries in villages around Asia. We've been working in Tibet for a long time, and we aim to digitize all the works that we get access to. Now, when it comes to manuscripts, right, there's no such thing as a duplicate. We'll scan anything we get a hold of, because minor differences in text mean that that work is unique and has its own historical value and therefore deserves to be preserved. But it's only natural that we certainly are always on the lookout for rare and previously unknown texts. So just a couple of months ago, when I first arrived at the organization, our librarians were going through a recent delivery of digital image files from our field site in China, and they came upon a work that they had only ever dreamt of getting access to. It's this text here. It's something that the tradition has always known about, but assumed had been lost centuries ago. In fact, this is the only copy still extant on Earth. Its very existence was unknown to all but the small group of caretakers at the monastery in northeast Tibet in Qinghai province that had safeguarded it for centuries. The work is revered because it is a prototype of the earliest vernacular form of Tibetan Buddhism, which translates as the stages of the path, or in Tibetan, Lam Rim. So in many ways, this work is a missing link. It's sort of like a Dead Sea Scroll for early Tibetan history and early Tibetan writing. BDRC is based in Cambridge, and so whenever Buddhist masters pass through the Boston area, they often come and visit us, and they always want to know about new discoveries. Just a couple of weeks ago, we were graced with the presence of the Karmapa, one of the leading lamas of the next generation. He came and spent 3 full hours visiting with our librarians and with some of the staffers. And of course, his first question was, so what have you found recently? And our librarians were very enthusiastic about reporting this text. And he was really excited and said, please, put a copy for me on a hard drive. I'll take it with me. And there I am handing him a box containing a hard drive with many gigabytes of new text that we've discovered recently. In fact, the Karmapa has said in his English that our resource is a sky treasure. And I think what he means by sky treasure is that the digital collection that we have up in the cloud is a Dharma treasury that is available to all sentient beings. All right. So one thing that's special about our work is that we have extensive networks on both sides of the Himalayas. We work in Tibetan monasteries in China and also with Tibetan communities in India and Nepal. And for that reason, we were able to amass the world's most important and most extensive collection of Tibetan literature. But over the past couple of years, we've expanded to embrace all Buddhist literature across Asia. And to those ends, we have recently opened a couple of new digitization centers. The first is in Thailand, and we are working with one of the most important collections of fragile palm leaf manuscripts. Those are all being digitized. It's a very laborious process, but it's a really important, crucial component of the Buddhist literary heritage. Then we also have a new digitization center in Nepal, which is dedicated to the digitization of Sanskrit Buddhist works, many of which are unknown and unavailable outside of the Kathmandu Valley. And then a couple of weeks ago, a few of our staff members flew out to Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia, to embark on by far our most ambitious project ever, to digitize and catalog the entire Tibetan collection of the National Library of Mongolia. It totals 40,000 volumes, and many of the texts are just like this. They're basically in the same state that they were in when they were delivered to the National Library many decades ago during the tumultuous Soviet period. So once these new projects bear fruit and our texts are digitized, cataloged, and available online, they will certainly be shared right away with the Internet Archive so that, again, they can reach the broadest possible audience and attain persistence. So I encourage you to navigate over to the Internet Archive, your favorite site, search for something on Tibetan, look for our logo, and you'll see some examples of our work. You might encounter some beautiful manuscripts like you just saw, or some really impressive collections of xylograph woodblock prints, or just modern publications in Unicode Tibetan font. And I also invite you warmly to see our own homepage, tbrc.org, tbrc.org. All right, and so now I would like to invite a friend and a stalwart supporter of BDRC, Sonam Tunden, to come and say a few words about why it is important to her that BDRC's collection is now available to the entire world through the Internet Archive. Sonam?
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sonam Tunden, and I am a Tibetan refugee. Bay Area is my home. So apart from my day job at Google, I am also one of the founders of Buddhist at Google. We have over 300 members, so we try to sit together, meditate once a week. So I've been asked to talk about why I support BDRC and why the work they're doing is so important. So I'm here to tell 3 stories. So the first story is connected to my personal story. So my father was a Tibetan Buddhist monk. When Tibet lost independence in 1959, he left his homeland, he gave up his monastic vows, and he settled in Sikkim, a small Himalayan state in India. He was a serious Buddhist practitioner all his life. So what he valued most, apart from his practice, was that he wanted to make sure that all the Tibetans in exile, they study and practice Buddhism. So when I was 7 years old, I was sent to a Tibetan boarding school, and the first thing my father did was he sponsored the publication of Buddhist daily practice for the entire school, all 500 of us. So it's a small book, about 30 pages, and I still have it. So it's important to my father that all Tibetan children learn about Buddhism and practice it. So over the years, he would buy rare Buddhist texts, sponsor the printing of Buddhist texts for monasteries. Of course, what my father did was a much smaller scale, but this is exactly what BDRC is doing, and this is one of the reasons why I support BDRC. And there are many stories of Tibetans risking their lives to preserve Buddhist texts, and this is because the knowledge contained in them is so precious that they are willing to risk their lives to preserve these texts. So the second reason why BDRC is so important is that the work BDRC is doing benefits all humankind and not just Buddhists. Dalai Lama, one of the most important Buddhist teachers, he puts Buddhism in 3 buckets: Buddhism as a science, Buddhism as a philosophy, and Buddhism as a religion. He says that Buddhist science and Buddhist philosophy have a great deal to offer to everyone and not just Buddhists. We do not need to look at or be interested in Buddhist religion in order to benefit from the teachings and insights that are available in Buddhist science and philosophy. One does not have to be Buddhist to benefit what Buddha taught 2,500 years ago. For example, practicing meditation and mindfulness can change the brains of ordinary people and potentially improve their well-being. The work that BDRC is doing helps all mankind, humankind, and not just Buddhists. And lastly, the third reason why I support BDRC is this. As a Tibetan refugee, preserving what's left of my culture and religion, if you want to call Buddhism religion, is really a human rights issue for me. The work that BDRC is doing, not just the preservation, but also the OCR work, which will make searching and accessing the Buddhist texts accessible to Tibetans inside Tibet and outside, is really important for Tibetans to keep their identity alive. So I'm very happy to learn that BDRC has partnered with the Internet Archive with the common goal of making knowledge universally accessible. So in Tibet, as I mentioned earlier, people risk their lives to preserve knowledge, and in many cases, even if the knowledge was preserved, it was not very easily accessible due to geographical limitations. We now have the ability to access knowledge digitally and from all corners of the earth. So this timeless Buddhist wisdom is now not only being preserved, but can be accessed with ease, and for this, I'm extremely grateful for Internet Archive and also for BDRC. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Brenton. I lead development on the archive.org and Open Library websites. And Brewster said, I want a web that goes where I go. More and more, we expect the web to come where we are, to come with us. And I'm not just an engineer here at the archive, I'm also a father. And I'm so aware that the work that we're doing is preparing the web and its content for future generations. I have a daughter. Her name is Tessa. She's 11 years old. She loves animals and writing and singing and programming and jumping on people. And like many 11-year-olds, she has a blog. She really likes puppies. She has a YouTube channel with instructional videos where she helps young programmers learn Scratch. And she also marches for things that she believes in. Tessa is so hungry for new experiences. I decided to bring her with me tonight. Hi, Tessa. This is everyone. Everyone. Tessa. Tu peux saluer? So, Tessa, you grew up with smartphones and tablets as just a normal part of your world. The idea that you could access the world's knowledge from a device in your pocket, wherever and whenever you wanted, was totally ordinary, right?
Totally ordinary.
Yeah, I thought so. And what are you reading these days, Tessa?
I'm reading Matilda by Roald Dahl.
And how are you reading Matilda by Roald Dahl?
On my iPad.
It turns out that more than half of our users accessing our content are accessing from phones, from tablets, mobile devices. And actually, many of these people don't even have a laptop or a desktop computer. In fact, many people around the world only access the internet through their mobile devices. So, Tessa, on archive.org, you listen to music, and you watch videos. But what do you really love? Books. So Tessa's been reading digital books since she was 6 on a Kindle, because with a digital device, she could change the font size to whatever she wanted. These are just a few of the books in our archive. We have 3.1 million books that we've scanned and saved for the world and made available to anyone. And you can access our books as a library loan, because we are a library, or you can access some of the books, you can read them, you can download the files without restriction. We get a lot of fan mail about our books. Let me share one with you. I just want you guys to know that I love you. You are a truly rare gem, a lighthouse in a global sea of darkness. I've spent countless years, nay centuries, exploring Internet Archive, and I learned more from Internet Archive than my multiple college degrees combined. Whoa! We are so grateful for the millions of users that visit our sites every day. And they not only remind us that the work we do is making a difference, but they also challenge us to keep making our services better and better. So speaking of that, I'm really excited to show you our brand spanking, newly updated book reader, which was just released last week. We're constantly updating the book reader because we're trying to provide people like Tessa with the best tools possible for accessing the web and its content. And with this update, we've brought your most requested feature right to the front, the ability to read any of our books out loud, to have them read out loud to you. With a tap, you can hear it. With a tap, you can hear it.
The collateral damage of breaking news. JL. Here's been a delicious debate in the Indian press of late. A prominent English daily announced that it would sell space on page 3, its gossip section, to anyone who was willing to pay to be featured.
All right. So that was pretty good, but you might have felt that that voice was a little bit robotic. We did that on purpose because we wanted you to be really excited about our next release coming out soon, where we'll be making use of the browser's built-in ability to synthesize voices. And let me tell you, audiobooks are super hot right now, super high demand. And not just for people with visual impairments. The ability to listen to a book, maybe on your morning commute, or while pretending to do your homework, or maybe you're cooking and you're up to your elbows in
chocolate mousse.
Up to your elbows in chocolate mousse, and you really don't want to touch that phone. So it's all pretty amazing. And while you can definitely listen to all of our books read by a very well-meaning robot, sometimes you just want to hear a human voice reading to you. And now I want to just tell you about a special project called LibriVox, founded by Hugh McGuire. So for the past 13 years, LibriVox has provided free audiobooks of public domain works, read entirely by volunteers. They've created a collection of 12,000 books in 95 different languages. Anyone can listen to these books, and better, anyone can record a book. In fact, Tessa is working on her first contribution. What are you recording, Tessa?
White Fang by Jack London.
A woman of substance. And the Internet Archive supports this awesome project by hosting all of their audiobook files for free. So it's funny. Brewster and I were talking to Hugh McGuire the other day, and he said, you know, with LibriVox, I wasn't really thinking about branding or how to make money from it. I really just wanted to create a way for people to read books to other people. So we have made the LibriVox collection part of our public book feeds. And so I'm happy to announce here tonight that in the next month, the LibriVox books will be featured on Aldico, the #1 Android book reading app, and bring the LibriVox book collection to more than 3 million new book readers. But I also wanted to give you just a little taste of what that would be like. So if you could, just for a moment, close your eyes, or don't, and imagine that you're snuggled up, cozy in bed, and you're being read to by someone, well, who's British.
Chapter 1 of The Silver Princess in Oz. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Beth Thomas. The Silver Princess in Oz by Ruth Plumley Thompson. Chapter 1. The King Rebels. In a faraway northwestern corner of the Gillikin country of Oz lies the rugged little kingdom of Regalia, and in an airy and elegant castle set high on the tallest mountain lives Randy, its brave young king.
Now imagine you open your eyes and cookies and milk have magically appeared. This is what it's like reading our books. So we're bringing our content to our users on their mobile devices. We're going where they go and giving them access to 3.1 million books for free in our book reader or on popular mobile apps such as Aldico and Simply E. And thanks to LibriVox, people around the world, people like Tessa, can listen to books, whether they have visual impairments or chocolate covering their hands, or whether they're just wanting to be read to, like when they were children. We at the Internet Archive, we're trying to prepare the web and its content for our future generations. So, Tessa, what do you think? Is it time? Caitlin says I'm over time. All right, where do you want to go? Okay, thank you, and I'd like to bring Jason Scott back to the stage. Thank you very much.
You know, they don't tell you that they keep us all in boxes like that. Anyway, hello everyone. Jason Scott, now here in the guise of a free-range archivist. And so I am here to tell you that the web is still fun and full of surprises, and we should continue to make it that way, because that is baked into its very heart, and anything else is a betrayal of that. And I'm two things in this world, fun and full of surprises. All right, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've been working on and people have been helping us with and everything else, and I'm going to be doing 3 of them tonight. But first, you probably want to know, what's a free-range archivist? And it's this title I gave myself. It means I walk around and I talk to people who are like, I like that Internet Archive and I want to give you stuff, but it's really weird. And I go, it's okay, I'll help you. And then reaching out to people to saying, we really need help with this. I bet you didn't know you were good at this. And then they go, great, I'd love to help you. So we have volunteers who have helped us over the years and contributed things. And then we have lots of things where we've brought in collections that people would never expect. Tonight I'm only going to do 3, but there's been dozens of wonderful projects, hundreds maybe over the years that we've added. So here's the first one. Ted Nelson, an Internet Archive fellow, who's in the room and just figured out I'm going to talk about him, is a wonderful guy. I love him very much, and he's a very good friend. And he, at 81, has collected amazing, one-of-a-kind archives in a lifetime of research. A lifetime is not over. And while helping him sort through his archives, we happened upon some mail. And in that mail, he had basically collected all sorts of interesting things all of his life because he was interested in everything: film production, computers, manufacturing techniques, civil liberties, understanding the world. Everything you could imagine he would write out for at a time from 1963 and onward to say, hey, give me a little more info on this stuff. And it would come in, and he kept it in a pristine fashion and then kind of forgot about it. And he said, you know, I think it's time to throw this out. And I said, can I have it? And he said, if you'd like, if you'd like. So we get lots of offers like this where people have lots of collections of things, but this really caught the eye of a fellow named Kevin Savitz, who's over there. And Kevin Savitz said, you should scan it. And I was like, we will one day. And he said, I'll scan it. And I said, okay. And Kevin started this project to take this amazing history, and I have to stress this. This is amazing history. It's ancillary to Ted's many amazing achievements, but it is amazing history in its own. It is graphically beautiful, it is historically relevant, and it was sitting, waiting to go online. So we scanned it all in. And so these are materials, pristine, scanned at 600 DPI by paid volunteers. We took funding, crowdfunding, and scanned them in, and we ended up with this beautiful collection. This collection is 70,000 pages, 6,800 items. We had 4 people who were being paid by crowdsourcing, and we had somebody full-time doing metadata. And the total cost was $11,000, and we're just about paid off. Just a few hundred, if you want to help. And so this is sitting at the archive right now. Ted Nelson junk mail. And it is one of a kind. If you go in there, we are constantly discovering new things in there. It is a glorious piece of work. So enjoy that. How many people here know about this weird thing called the emularity? Awesome, we've done our job. Okay. How many people here know that you can play with computer things in the browser at the archive? So we made it. So here's the deal. When Brewster came to me, he was like, you know, you click on it, you come, we're very proud of the instant access to materials. Telling people that materials are here and it's somewhere in our back room, that doesn't excite people, it doesn't get them engaged with the work. And that philosophy pervades everywhere in the archive if you use it. If you want to read a book, there it is, our great new book reader. If you want to listen to music, wow, here's our music player. And oh, if you want to watch movies, the film is right there. But what about software? What if it's an exe file? What if it's a zip file? What if it's an ISO? How are you going to look at this thing? So we ported emulators to JavaScript, put them in the window, and you can literally go and play all of these computers. And that's been around for a while, folks, but okay, fine. Woo! I will tell you that clicking on an Apple II disk and suddenly it boots and it's playing for me is pretty awesome, and I never get tired of it. And we emulate other things. We emulate arcade machines. We emulate Simon. We emulate the Speak and Spell. Yeah! But for the people who are like, this is amazing, there's one machine missing. And that machine is the Commodore 64. And for the half of you who are like, I can hear it, they're like, okay. The Commodore 64 is the most sold computer in history. From like 1982 to 1993, it sold without ever changing its model. And so it's out there by the tens of millions. Hundreds of thousands of software products have been made for it. And it never changed. It had a rockin' less than 64K of memory. It's not very powerful, and Europeans loved it. And they grew up on it because it was this multi-$100 machine at a time when machines were thousands. And if you look at the graphics, they're wonderful. I love these things. We've put up thousands of games, thousands of educational programs, graphics demonstrations, music discs. We did this all a day or two ago. So it's done using something called the Vice emulator, which is a group of fanatical Finns who have fully emulated the Commodore 64. And it was sitting around a while, and SGeo was just a volunteer who said, why don't you have the Commodore 64 up? And I was like, why don't you make it different? And he did. I watched him bang his head against the wall for a month, and he just did it. So it's there because of a volunteer, and it's booting right now. If you go to software library _64, C64, it is there. Bubble Bobble, Jumpman, you'll have a great day. All right, I like this. I like doing nostalgia is weird, isn't it? Like you get something where someone's like, oh, that is beautiful, and the person's like, whoa, what is that? So I have a simple question for this fine, robust group of people. Does anybody remember Winamp skins? Winamp skins. All hail Justin Frankel. And of course, does anyone remember Winamp? See, to understand Winamp skins, you got to go to Winamp. Winamp was this media player that came out in 1997 and was probably the most dominant way for people to understand MP3s and streaming and getting internet radio and being able to play all sorts of interesting media online. And then what happened is people made skins for it. They made it that it was moddable, and you can make the look of the, which I think is, I mean, I think the original is pretty beautiful. That's Winamp 2 over there. I think it looks pretty nice. And a llama became the logo for some reason. Anyway, so we now have a Winamp skin archive, 5,000 skins. So that's pretty cool. I mean, you go look at it, and it's pretty awesome. But we're the Internet Archive. The archive has to be fun. The archive has to be surprising. Has anyone played anything in our JW player? Played music at the archive with this beautiful setup and everything? Well, we thought we'd take it to the next level. I want a world where you go, that did not just happen. And it does happen. Anyone see the llama up in the upper right-hand corner? The little guy right there. The little llama. Oh, let's click on him. This, my friends, is a full JavaScript implementation of Winamp. This is a functioning Winamp, and you can use equalization, you can use the playlist to tell the story, and I am not going to be able to do this in gloves, and I apologize. You can drop in your own stuff and play it in the browser.
We don't have.
Yeah. This is done because of the WebAmp player by Jordan Eldridge. Jordan, stand up. Where are you, you weasel? Stand up. There he is. You Netflix binged. You found where all the good restaurants were. But Jordan spent 4 years on and off porting the now dead Winamp player to JavaScript. Handcrafting it. It's even got the bugs. He just was working on it, and I saw it, and I said, maybe we could smack it into the archive? We have a boss who goes, let's see what happens. And here we are. So I need you to understand and spread the word that every single audio item on the archive has a llama now. And you can play Winamp. So all I want is for you to click on the llama. Can I get a chant? Click on the llama. Click on the llama. Click on the llama. Thank you very, very, very much. And now, my boss, the olive in a toothpick of the Dagwood sandwich of tonight's evening, Brewster Kahle, would like to come up and say a few things. Oh my God, it's behind me. Hello. All right, I think I take this. I think you talk. All right.
So thank you very much, Jason. So when WikiLeaks went and put a lot of cables from the United States government up on the open internet, there was a directive put out for federal employees to not go to that website. The idea is that they were going to shut down access by just telling people not to go there. This all seemed very similar, silly to me. And I was in a panel at the American Library Association, and after they were sort of going over sort of all the threats of sort of, well, you shouldn't go there, I said, we've archived it all, and we've put it up on the Internet Archive. And this was actually, it was a time I got a standing ovation at ALA, which I think is actually kind of great. But I found out later, based on Snowden's revelations, that the GCHQ, the Secret Service in the UK, watched all of the IP addresses that went to WikiLeaks.org, and then they handed those over to the NSA for further processing. and potentially further actions. It didn't say in the documents what more the NSA ended up doing, but the idea that you can basically be watched of what it is you're reading out there and it can be put through the authorities is horrifying. Libraries have a long tradition of defending their readers against people that want to round people up based on the books they've read and have bad things happen to them. And what I was really kind of crushed by on this is not just that the website knew who was coming, but there were people in between that were watching it. This is creepy, or worse. What we want is a web that isn't creepy. Can we go and make it so that a web is robust to go against this? My son, Kazlan, is teaching English in China. The only way that he can get access to the Internet Archive is by using a VPN to get through the Great Firewall of China. This doesn't make any sense. We've basically broken up the web. And these centralized points of control have gone and really distorted how the web works. So what we want is a web that doesn't have any centralized point of control. If there's a mechanism of making the web work better by actually changing the code such that it can go and find things from many places, we can lock the web open. We can make it so that the web cannot be censored in these ways. We can make the web that is controlled by ourselves, by a view of websites and web resources that we control. And this is all completely possible. So we wanted to go and bring people together and show this off, and we did. We had 2 years ago, we had this, the Decentralized Web Summit. Tim Berners-Lee, Vint Cerf came. It was terrific. There was lots of younger people showing that it all was working, kind of. Just in this last year, there are now companies that have 100 people in them that are going and building these decentralized technologies. And it's not just all blockchain, but it is, there's blockchain, there's some of the currency folks, but they're using it for much of, at the content level now, for being able to use peer-to-peer back-end infrastructures to do this. We thought we would double down and we would try to make sure that it worked, at least for us, to be able to show that decentralized web can work and then hopefully work for many others. So we said, let's go and make the Internet Archive, but decentralized. Could we do that? So I invite you, actually, pull out your phones or devices and go there. I know, boy, am I causing the demo gods to like, I don't know. But the idea is to be able to see this. And it's a work in progress, and if it actually works, it will be a miracle, and you're going to have to go and applaud. Okay, but this is not quite it. This is the Internet Archive website on archive.org. It's basically this browser talking to probably one of those machines back there to go and fill in the information on here. What I'm going to try to show you is the decentralized web version of the Internet Archive. It looks a whole lot like this. And that would be a really boring demo. It's like, woo, there. So what to try to make it a little bit more exciting, I'm going to go and open up a JavaScript console to show you the amount of mechanisms and things that are going to go on as I go and run this. The idea is I'm going to go to dweb.archive.org, and it's going to fire up WebTorrent, which is a JavaScript version of the BitTorrent protocol. It's going to fire up IPFS, which is an interplanetary file system, which is a peer-to-peer file system that can go from browser to browser to browser to be able to get access to information. There's Gun and there's YJS that are decentralized databases that can work anywhere and nowhere, basically peer-to-peer database backends. So if this works, then all of these will fire up by being this flurry of activity in the JavaScript window. Okay, firing up, firing up, firing up. Zip, zip. Yay! Okay, so there's a version of the Internet Archive website. If I go into Prelinger Archives, can I go and show that this information would be available from a large number of different places? And in some sense, this is really turning the dial back. Can we make it so that when, for instance, journal literature, instead of having it all on one server, libraries used to buy these things and put multiple copies. That's why we have them still. But right now, all this digital stuff has gone to much more centralized. So there's only one location for these to come from. But if we can get it back out again, then it will work a whole lot better and be a lot more persistent, as the Buddhists say. So I'm going to go to a... And? Is it working? Oh, please work. Hit refresh. This is a Prelinger book, loading up and bringing up all of these different YJS, come on. Maybe going and having a very large number of people do it all at once was not necessarily the best idea. Should I try Firefox? Oh, something's happening. So it's loading. Okay, I'm going to try Firefox. Dun, da, 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 dun, da, 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 dun, da, 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 da. Still stuck in the same place. YJS is having a hard time booting. Well, the Debo gods are not shining on me terribly well. So we got the home page and we got the Prelinger archive page, but we didn't get our movie playing. Pardon? It's working in Australia. I don't know, maybe those firewalls have been just built up a little bit too high on us. I think I'm going to have to leave this without it completely working all the way through for my, we believe you. So, so this is almost the D-Web working all the way through to a movie to be able to show you how we can go and build a web that basically serves from many, many different places. So if we can go and build this and have it work, then the idea is to have many other players go about and do this as well. What I would really like is basically the web that I use every day, but decentralized. A web that isn't creepy. If we can make an internet archive but decentralized, can we make a Slack but decentralized? Can we make it so that that is not sort of like who's getting my information, or Google Docs, which I think is one of the freaking magic things in the universe, is Google Docs. But where are my docs going? And who has access to those? Can we make Google Docs but decentralized? Can we make maps and decentralized? Can we make a Tesla that doesn't actually track and send back everywhere I'm going back to Tesla? All right, can we go and make it so that our apps and our technologies don't spy on us and work a little bit better than my demo at the moment? So that is the idea of the decentralized web. And let me see if I can at least bring up the archive.org. That's the reliable existing web. And bring up the... No, YJS is having a very bad day. So that ends my demo of the decentralized web. So tonight, what we've seen is trying to get to a vision of the web that we want, that we can go and build on and get there. A web that sets the record straight. A web that is reliable, something that we can count on. A web that allows us to go deeper, find more information about what you're looking at, and be able to branch off into deeper resources than what it is we have on our current web. A web archive that's built by many communities, that helps preserve the human record from many, many different points of view. We include voices from those that are not just the powerful, but those that are actually being crushed, or just should be heard from different points of view and have them have at least longevity and be able to get the audience that they deserve. I want a web that goes where I go and not have gatekeepers say what it is I'm allowed to see on that platform and not. I want a web that's fun and full of surprises, that continues to have that sort of frolicking, hey, yeah, let's do that. Let's just try that. That's the web that we signed up for. I want a web that isn't creepy, that doesn't have any centralized points of control, and is locked open for good. That's the web that I think we should all be trying to build together. The Internet Archive can do some of these components, and we can paint a bit of a portrait of where we might be able to go, but it's going to be based on a very large number of people coming together to make this happen. If we take Mark Graham's wish to go and have those book links in Wikipedia come true, it costs about $50 to go and buy a book and scan it and put it up so that it can be lent to anybody that wants to have access to it, one reader at a time. We can do this. We can, if we wanted to do all of the books of Wikipedia and all of the books in the syllabi and also the books that are commonly held in school libraries and public libraries, it's about a $100 million project. And okay, it's a big number, but it's doable. That this kind of thing is doable. But I'd say the biggest thing that our community could do is to try to take our jobs seriously and our contacts seriously to build a more robust, better structured web. That we can go and have our, many of us work in the companies that are building these tools that we're using. But can we go and make them so that they're decentralized and work better and better for our users? We don't have to sacrifice our business models and the like to do this. I think we can just make a web that is stronger and build a better web. Thank you very much for coming this evening. I see somebody in the back has got actually the decentralized web running, so thank you. Yes, you got the our movie going, so that's terrific. And to close out, Jason Scott will tell us a little bit. The party keeps going on, so just close us out, Jason. Thank you.
Okay, people, we've had a wonderful. The kid's not still in here, is she? Okay, good. So everybody, I hope you've been having a wonderful time today. I can see you start to file out. Well, if you were collecting lots of stars towards a prize, well, guess what? We're going to give you the prize anyway. As you go out, get your free Internet Archive tote bag. Haul us around. It holds 100 petabytes. And we also have, because we like you to remember us with a sweet tooth, we have ice cream sandwiches waiting for you outside. There's your incentive to move on. So again, I hope you've all had a wonderful time tonight. You see how hard we're working in all various bits. If you think you have a bug report for the D-Web, we want to hear from you. If you have anything where you see code you want to fix, we want to hear from you. We work with you, and we want to continue to do that. So thanks to everyone who's come tonight. Please have a wonderful time, stay safe, register to vote, and this son and grandson of immigrants thanks you for it. Bye-bye.